Hello, and let's start digging into our assessment notebook work for Education 310 as you guys are getting started with your intervention groups in your classrooms. It's important that you know what you're supposed to be collecting and what it will be expected to look like as we complete our time together. So I'm going to go into our syllabus really quick because in our syllabus we have one, just the explanation of the notebook itself, and two, the rubric that I will be using as I score what your final field experience will be. So your field experience and intervention group rubric, this will encompass, think of it as being two different parts. So the first part is going to be your reflection of your field experience. And for those of you who are TAs already in the field, you're really just telling me about your experiences day to day. So you will have your 30 hours because you're there every day. And so I'm not worried about that, but this first part is about your experience, not necessarily your intervention group. So your field experience, your final project, you will have it be at least 5 pages. Here are your expectations. You have an introductory paragraph. You're going to write about growth mindset. Is it happening in your partner teacher's classroom or your grade level where you're assigned? Wherever you spend the bulk of your day, is that happening or is it not? The same for respectful learning environments. Are students engaged? Are they applying the content in real world situations? So this is this happening or is this not happening where you are day in and day out? As well as assessment practices. So here it's giving you a list of criteria to be looking for, and especially as we're now digging into that classroom assessment handbook or notebook, it's important to make sure that you are reflecting on, are these things happening in the classrooms where I'm working? And then your reflection of your experience overall, any questions that may come about, your look-fors, citations and works cited, all of that will be happening as you are in your partner classrooms or grade levels day to day. So where we get into your intervention group itself is here. So it's all going to be turned in together as one reflection, one piece of evidence, but this is where you're really going to find the information about your intervention groups. So we'll start by saying that your group should be between 1 and 4 students. If it's 5 students, I'm not going to take points off, but really in order to have a firm grasp and control over the students that we're working with, it's best to have 1 to 4. You should meet for at least 6 sessions for 20 minutes each. If you can do more, that's ideal. So 6 sessions is difficult for students to be able to really master content in 6 20-minute sessions. You should see growth and improvement, but lasting growth and improvement is a little bit tricky in just 6 sessions. You need to have a log of your dates and times that you are having your sessions, and I will show you that. Your session notes will be your lesson plan. I will show you that. Your data that you are tracking as well as your students are tracking. So that's a big piece of our assessment work, is being transparent with data. And so it's important that we as teachers are planning our assessment groups based on any sort of pre-test data. So that could be anything from they failed a chapter test to they had a low score on an EOG or a benchmark assessment to they really did not understand the last lesson, and so I'm going to dig in deep with them and do a little mini, like a micro intervention group. But at the same time, you should not be the one doing all the work all the time. And I would venture to say that there's a good number of students that if they see the data and if they see where they are and where they need to be, it's a challenge for them and they'll want to rise to meet that expectation. And so if they are monitoring where they started in your group and where they end in your group and kind of the growth in between, they'll be pretty excited to see their trend line increase as they're going through sessions with you. And then you're also talking about the summary of student growth, and because you're tracking data and they're tracking data, you can have a data-based conversation and say, Emily only knew 4 out of 75 sight words for kindergarten, and in the middle of our intervention group, she had increased to 25 out of 75 sight words. And by the end of our time together, she had mastered 62 out of 75 sight words for kindergarten. So you want to be able to have that conversation, but you can't have that conversation if you're not tracking the data. So that's why I ask you to do that. And then you are reflecting on the experience overall. So let's go back to our Blackboard weekly content. Now, in order to just kind of give you a visual, because several of you guys are asking me, how am I supposed to be tracking this and what is it supposed to look like? So I want to just give you a little bit of a visual. And then tomorrow, Tuesday or Wednesday, I will upload like an Excel spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet for you to be able to manipulate if you want to use that. You don't have to. You can create your own. So here at the bottom of week 4, you'll see Assessment Notebook Resources. So if you click on this first link, it will take you into a video that will walk you through conferring notebook in reproducible forms. Okay, so before this video starts, and we're not going to watch it together, but I will give you a disclaimer that it's a little bit dated and it's very much kindergarten, and she's very much a kindergarten teacher. But if you kind of step out of that kindergarten mindset and you're just looking at her structure and her system, this is how we need to be building our assessment notebooks. And so don't get hung up on the kindergarten part of it, and don't get hung up on the cutesy little pieces. It's really just the bones of it that we're looking at. And probably the last minute or 2 minutes where she digs into some of the more reading-based information and literacy-based information, that's not relevant. You're really just wanting to look all the way up through the data section and the student tab section, and you'll know what that means when you watch. But watch this video first so that you have a good idea of what you'll be looking at as you're going through these other links. So one of the things that's important to have, and several of you have already asked me about your context for learning. I'm not going to be able to open this, I don't think. Pardon me for moving the screen. Okay, so I'm going to go back here so that I can open something for you. Pardon all of my folders. Let's see. It's going to take a while to download, but if I use, here we go. All right, so your context for learning. This is your look fors document. It's really going to give a good overview of your group that you're working with and the students that you're working with. So your context for learning, if you remember when we looked back, is going to be part 1 of your assessment notebook. So think of part 1 as like a tab in a binder or a tab at the bottom of your Excel spreadsheet. So in that context for learning, which I uploaded in week 2, I believe, you are going to be really providing an overview of what your classroom or grade level, wherever you're placed, is. So what type of school, what setting, any special things that I need to know about. If you are BK, elementary, or SPED, which all of you guys should be elementary, you are going to be focusing on a literacy intervention. If there's anyone else in here, I think I have one secondary biology, you will be focusing on biology. And then you're just giving me information like grade level, number of students, males, females. And then here, I really want you to take a minute and think ahead about the students that you're going to be working with. So I do want to see this as either your partner classroom perspective, but then also your group. So chances are the students that you're going to be working with are going to have or meet one of these characteristics. So they may be EC, ELL, a struggling reader, or they're just below level, or a combination of them. So we just need to know the number of students that we're working with, and then what supports, accommodations, and modifications we're providing. So you're just completing this form, but that is essentially part 1, or tab 1, of your assessment notebook. So part 2, or tab 2, is a student list. So by student list, I mean we need to know who we're meeting with when. So this is just a visual example. Honestly, this is what I use to keep track of your work when you submit it week to week. And so you would put the students here that are in your intervention group, and you can either put your session dates here, and then you would check mark when students are present for your group, or you can write the date that they are present in these boxes, however you best want to do it. But what you're looking for is your trends and attendance and your regular sessions, and are you meeting with all of the kids that you're supposed to meet with an equal amount of time. So what will happen sometimes is that we have students that are in our tutoring group who are absent or have chronic attendance problems. And so at the end, if you're explaining to me that Emily only increased sight words by 5 words over the course of 6 sessions, then you can look back at this log and you can see that, well, Emily missed 4 out of 6 sessions because she wasn't here at school. So this is where you're going to be keeping track of that attendance for your sessions. Part 3 is where your kind of overview planning is. So I put in January, February, March, and April, but you are basically planning out when you're going to meet, and you're being intentional about your sessions. So you guys aren't going all the way until April, but you're going to be looking at between February and March when your 6 sessions are going to be. In fact, since you're not going to be in April, I'm not going to pull up April. So let me pull up February. So let's think about, in February, when are my 6 sessions going to be? I'm going to put them on my calendar as just kind of like a quick, session 1, sight words 1 through 10. And so if I'm going to do that on February 5th, then I need to make sure if I'm doing weekly on Mondays, on the 12th, on the 19th, on the 26th, I'm putting it on the calendar so you know and the kids know when you're meeting. You can also use this to be intentional about who you're focusing on in your group. So obviously as an intervention group, you're focusing on this group. But if you notice that Emily, after 4 sessions, is still struggling, I'm going to write Emily's name on the 26th, because on the 19th I noticed that she's just not making progress and I'm not understanding where her glitch is, where her hang-up is. So I'm going to write her name on the 26th because I really want to know and dig in deep with her to see what I'm missing and how I can better help her. So that is going to be part 3, or tab 3. It's kind of your overview planning. Part 4 is a lesson plan. You don't have to use this lesson plan, but you are welcome to. So let me again go back. I apologize that some of these documents will take a little bit longer than it would if I just go in here. So this lesson plan, I just want you to, and I may just do a separate example of this, a separate video, So you can use whatever lesson plan you want. In the rubric, it tells you exactly what pieces you need to have, but this is the lesson plan format that I recommend. And so you would complete the first page, second page, and third page, all the way up until this independent practice. So I'll go ahead in a couple of days here, upload another video specific to lesson planning and how to use this. But just know that it's in here in your assessment notebook resources, that you can use this lesson plan template. You do not have to. You can create your own. You can use a 6-point lesson plan. You can use a learning focus lesson plan. As long as you are meeting the expectations that are on this rubric for your session notes and what needs to be in your plan. So just know that. And then the last part of the last tab is going to be your data tab. Actually, that's not your last one, but it's the last one that you are, in a sense, creating. So your data tab, somehow you need to be tracking the progress of the students throughout your class. So these are just examples. And then remember I said that you are tracking their data. They need to be tracking their data as well. So although it's not a tab here, your part 6 or your 6th tab will be student information. So that's where you'll keep copies of their work, copies of their progress and their charts and their data. So all of this together will be your field experience final project that you turn in. Thank you.